Welcome back. School is resuming. Pumpkin spice lattes are back. The federal cabinet is meeting. It must be September, Nik Nanos.
Absolutely.
Nik Nanos, of course, principal of Nanos Research and Pollster for CTV News. He's in Ottawa, where, Nick, I'm assuming people are starting to pay a little bit of attention to politics again after the barbecue circuit's over.
Oh, man, you know, with Donald Trump, people have not stopped talking about politics because it's like every day Canada's listening to some new thing that Donald Trump is doing that impacts the trade relationship. So it's been full-on politics for the whole summer, and it's going to ramp up even more now that we're hitting the fall.
Do you get that sense from Canadians over the summer that people were dialed in perhaps a little more than they normally would be?
I think a lot of them were dialed in because, you know, our relationship with the United States, our trade relationship is critical to the Canadian economy. It's critical to Canadian jobs. People tune into stuff like that. And it's sadly entertaining. Why don't we just say kind of like a car crash? Sadly entertaining. So, you know, in addition to Canadians enjoying the summer, they're also kind of monitoring what was going on in the relationship with the United States.
Well, and they didn't hear a lot from the federal government because it's been quiet. We know that there was a phone call, of course, between the Prime Minister and Mr. Trump, and that Dominic LeBlanc was down there. But really, they haven't really put forth a whole lot since we talked about that early October deadline for a deal, which, of course, came and went. And they said, you know, don't worry too much about that. Things are still in the works, but it's been awfully quiet.
Is that your way of saying, Todd, that they haven't accomplished anything? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, listen, I'll let you decide whether that's the case.
Okay.
Nick, I would never dare to be so bold.
Yeah, your diplomatic appointment's probably in the mail.
Right.
Okay, Todd. The reality is that the government has made stable trade relations with the United States a top priority. It was a keystone element of Mark Carney and the Liberals when they're running against Pierre Poilievre, but they haven't been able to make the headway that they've wanted to because, you know, Mark Carney has a trade negotiating partner. His name is Donald Trump, and he has not been as cooperative as Mark Carney would like. And, you know, I think this is going to be one of the kickers this fall because I think for a lot of Canadians, they're going to be wondering, what are we going to have to do and how long is it going to take for Mark Carney to have some sort of arrangement or a track where there's a higher level of certainty when it comes to the trade relationship between Canada and the United States.
We saw him on that high-profile trip to Europe. Is there some thinking that, you know, he came back with something in his hand out of that? There was talk about, you know, the submarine contracts, but perhaps more on energy.
Yeah, well, he did have a meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. And I think one of the key things had to do with energy and LNG and potential Canadian exports. And, you know, the thing is that the Trudeau Liberals had basically killed any hope or ambition to have exports of LNG out of Eastern Canada. And it looks like at least the Carney government is willing to open that up. And Germany has a willing partner that if Canada can provide the LNG, that'll be the case. But, you know, the thing is what's clear is that Mark Carney, and maybe this is part of his corporate business banking background, is looking to line up customers, right, as part of the plan to build an energy infrastructure in Canada. And, you know, for that to happen, we already have a Western pipeline. It is a pipeline and capacity out east that looks like it's at the top of the priority list.
So the Liberal cabinet is holding a retreat this week. I guess this is what? This is sort of lining up their priorities for the coming session.
Yeah, I think lining up priorities. The other thing is the budget, Todd. Yeah. You know, they just closed out the pre-budget consultations a little like last week, which means now the government kind of can move forward on planning for the budget. The budget's, it's going to be, I don't want to call it a blockbuster, but it's going to be a critical budget. It's going to be a big spending budget. It's going to hypothetically include some sort of investments based on what the Prime Minister has told Canadians. And we're also going to find out what we think the bill is going to be for all these projects and all this spending. And, you know, the ironic twist is that we may see a deficit that is bigger than the big deficits that Justin Trudeau racked up near the close of his tenure.
Do you think the Prime Minister then will try to offset that? We've heard a lot coming out of Ottawa, in particular the public sector unions. They're obviously nervous about what might come down the pipe for them.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the government has an articulated goal, at least, of a 15% savings in government. But the thing is that won't be enough to cover all the new spending. I would expect that the spending is going to be framed as investments in infrastructure. And we know from our polling that spending on infrastructure, roads, ports, that kind of stuff is much more popular than spending on a lot of other things. So expect the government, even though there'll be a big deficit number, to frame it in the context of investing in Canada, investing in the Canadian economy, and trying to make it more resilient vis-a-vis the Americans.
Nick, before I let you go, I'm always curious, to gauge how people are feeling. What's top of mind? You mentioned trade, but we still hear a lot about cost of living and housing, but cost of living in particular. Yeah,
the two top unprompted national issues of concern. More than 4 out of every 10 Canadians say Trump, trade, jobs, and the economy as the top two. And then after that comes housing and the cost of living and things like the environment. But the thing is that when we look at trade and Trump and the economy, those things are now all intertwined in one big issue that people are really focused on right now, because we're in a bit of a holding pattern when it comes to consumer confidence. And it'll be interesting to see where we end up at the end of 2025.
No doubt, and we'll have you on certainly long before that to talk about it. Nik Nanos in Ottawa, thank you as always.
Take it easy.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with much more of your show.